rush, but it was exciting nonetheless. It's as if it's flipped reversed, and the pressure is on the English league because they're trying to sell. English football isn't a game; it's a product. And that's the kind of issue I think that the English have. Whereas the viewership outside of Italy for Serie A probably has waned over the last maybe decade. It's probably going to pick up again. But the point is that they're probably more free to express themselves. I take Ciaran's point about pressure in the English game because it's shown so everywhere in the world. And I'm not saying that Serie A isn't. What I'm saying is I think there's a lot more pressure to make a better product than maybe the Italians have. They're just going for it and having a free-flowing football.
No, it's not so much that, but it's mostly the pressure. For a good chunk of the season, there's a possibility of 4 teams able to win the Premier League.
There was only 2 last season.
Perhaps.
Towards the end of the season, but up until Christmas, there was a lot more between 3 or 4 of them. Whereas, like you said in Italy, it's a 2-horse race. But those 2 teams are in that much great form and they've got that much quality that they can just steamroller all the teams. So
I think, sorry, I do concede actually now, the financial aspect of the Premiership probably brings its own pressures as well, especially for a lot of teams down the opposite end of the table. Going down is a financial disaster, and the difference between finishing, I think that might be the case. I think because of the finances involved in the margins for error, that could play a part in it. But as we said, let's be honest, a lot of it's pish.
Yeah.
That Chelsea-Arsenal game just wasn't interesting.
Yeah, I
mean,
agree.
we were sitting waiting in Juventus-Roma, most of us, and it really didn't disappoint.
I actually started watching. I started watching Mainz versus Borussia Mönchengladbach, and within the 10 minutes of watching that, it was far more entertaining than the Chelsea-Arsenal game. The Chelsea-Arsenal game was just dire. I don't know. Arsenal are just. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know. To me, they're not going to finish in the top 5. Because I think Man United will finish ahead of them. I think that the top 4 are almost primed to be Chelsea, Manchester City, probably Manchester United. I think United will push for that one. And then Spurs are making a bit of a resurgence as well. Arsenal seem to be getting worse and worse as the weeks go by. But anyway, back to Juventus. It was a terrific finisher by finisher. It's not a wrestling thing. Bonucci, the centre half, the technique.
He just stuck his boot out.
Oh, come on. Come on. The technique.
To catch it.
Look at the bitter wee face there. Come on.
I'm going to concentrate on how great a spectacle it was. No, I'm no. Just hit me with the bitterness. I'm going to bring it out.
Okay, what I would say is Iturbe.
Fantastic.
He was absolutely terrific. This is a guy who pretty much had almost signed on the dotted line for Juventus, and he was one of their chief kind of things yesterday, right in their thingy. His performance, along with Pjanic, I think is just the way he went about the pitch was fantastic. I mean, you look at that Roma team though, and could they do something in Europe, the Champions League?
See, in terms of midfield, the strength and depth they've got in midfield, they put out a midfield yesterday with Nangolan, who I'm a massive fan of, Pjanic, as you said, Keita, Iturbe, and then we're forgetting about De Rossi's injured, Strootman's injured. The quality they have in midfield is unbelievable.
Paredes came on.
Paredes, I mean, I don't know too much about him. I know he's in loan from Boca.
Yeah.
And he's a highly rated Argentinian. And especially in Florenzi as well. They've got a lot, a real strength and depth in midfield. Juventus, his midfield is unbelievable as well. But
Vidal not making the starting lineup, coming off.
Yeah, Vidal. I mean, Vidal's obviously struggling a wee bit just now.
Yeah, he really is. He actually, yeah.
But Marchisio wasn't exactly they had Marchisio, Pirlo and Pogba. That's not a bad midfield. That's what set Juventus apart from the rest of the Italian teams over the last few seasons. But I in terms of quality, I think Roma's midfield can stand toe to toe. They did last night. That's why Roma were able to compete, because their midfield wasn't overrun. I really think that in Europe they showed a lot their class against CSKA. They went over to Man City and for long times bossed that game.
Should have won it.
They probably should have won it. I think Man City did get into the game as it went on and stuff like that, but for long periods of that game, Roma were in charge. Nangolan, the work that guy does is absolutely unreal, and I think they'll qualify from that group. I think they'll qualify alongside Bayern Munich.
Hope
probably in second, but yeah, they've got a real chance at making an impact this year.
I mean, they had 56% of the possession. It's quite interesting that they had 56% possession. Juventus won 72% of all this sort of aerial. I mean, Juventus are just a big, tough team.
They are a big team.
They're a hard team to, I mean, if you look at, not even their centre-halves, if you look at, obviously, Pogba, and even someone like Tevez, who's just a physical, specimen. It was a terrific game. I really enjoyed it. Ciaran, you watched the Fiorentina game afterwards?
Yeah, and I thought
Talk me through it.
That was really good. I thought Fiorentina looked really good. They were really good going forward. Some terrific strikes. The wee young boy scored the opener. Not sure who it is.
Babacar.
Baba.
Fantastic. And then I was
The Bab Meister General.
thinking and listening to the content. I mean, some of the injuries they've got. I mean, they're missing their top two in Gomez and Rossi.
To be fair,
they're missing Joaquin, and there was some third or fourth of quality, and yet they were still able to fucking outrun it. No?
And they're a weird one because they do have some really good players, but it just, I don't know, it just doesn't seem to kind of click. They've got, to be fair, they've also got quite a few kind of egos in that team as well. But the goals were terrific. Quadrado, what do you thought? What thoughts on his goal?
Apart from his goal, he was just involved in everything.
Yeah,
a lot of the ball was going through him.
They kind of line up in an almost sort of Christmas tree formation with Aquilani, Pizarro and Kurtic. I don't know much.
Aquilani was quite quiet.
Yeah, well,
I don't really see him in it much.
I look at that back line for Fiorentina and I see Savic and I just kind of.
Do you know what? I mean, that's been my consistent criticism of Fiorentina. I mean, that's and in terms of Italian sides, that's Fiorentina on my side. But one of the biggest criticisms I've always said about them is they're really poor at the back. But that's the third clean sheet they've had in a row. Yeah, but
they've just haven't been scoring goals this season. Obviously, yesterday will maybe kick them off into to actually start rattling them in, hopefully, and get a kind of consistent challenge. But with Inter, Villa, who I know I was speaking to Marek about him, he's always flattered to deceive for me. I've never really known what the kind of big deal about Villa is.
Yeah.
Icardi and Osvaldo. I mean, Hernan is coming off the bench as well. Palacio coming off the bench. They've got some really good players. It just doesn't click.
I think the big problem as well they've got is playing a back three. It's certainly something Vidic is really struggling with from what I've heard.
Yeah,
because he's always been used to
made quite. See, for a guy who's an experienced international who's played at the highest level for the last decade, he has been pretty poor. Maybe he's not been able to take the pace of Italian football, which is something maybe you wouldn't have said like 10 years ago. But it's a lot more fast paced, and he's made a lot of kind of big mistakes. Do you know that Juventus have won their last 13 matches in Serie?
Yeah, I do, and I know they've not dropped a point in over a season at home. It's amazing what kind of officials can do to you. No, listen. Juventus are a fantastic side. They're a fantastic side. When you're a fantastic side and you're blessed with the rub of the green on so many occasions, you're going to be a successful team, Christopher.
We've got some interesting ties coming up. Fiorentina Lazio, Inter Napoli, Torino Udinese, Juventus are away to Sassuolo, which could be a potential banana skin, and Roma have got Chievo. So that'll obviously be after the internationals. Who stood out for you outside of Juventus and Roma this season so far, Chris?
Udinese. Time and time again, they lose players and they rebuild. They're a great club. I've always had a lot of time for them. And as we said last week, Di Natale's still banging in goals at 37, 38. They're a quality outfit. It's just one of those. I think they're kind of like everybody's
second team
side. They're just really good. They've performed really really well again.
Big fan of Jorgensen back in the day.
Oh, aye, the Danish. Aye, Christ, I forgot all about him.
He was brilliant. He went to AC Milan and he was rubbish.
Aye, that's one of those the old Champman signings. Used to always have him.
Terrific! What a shot on him as well.
And then they're coming back to the farm. obviously, being fans of Italian football, we remember when Sanchez was there before he went to Barcelona, and they were an electrifying attacking force when Sanchez was playing for them.
Celtic actually got a pretty couple of good decent results for them in the Europa League. Remember?
That's right. Aye.
We were unlucky to we lost. I think or was it a draw?
I think we drew away from home.
I think we drew. We can look into that. But yeah, so I mean, obviously, how are Italy going to do? Who have Italy got in the qualifiers? I can find out.
I can remember. They're playing on Friday night, I think.
Is it Friday they're playing? Yeah.
As opposed to the Saturday, which I think the rest of the group game.
How is Italy looking in terms of?
I've seen them play Holland under Conte, and they looked really good. The way they moved the ball about the pitch was fantastic. They've got Zaza. They've Berardi's the boy at Sassuolo who's rated highly. I think he's on loan there from Juventus. But Zaza's been picked, called up by the Italian squad, and he scored over in Norway. They look. Against Holland, they looked really good, and then against Norway, they just look clinical.
Yeah,
they look as if they're going to make light work of the qualification.
Azerbaijan at home.
Aye, that sounds like a real mouth-watering prospect. But no, they just look as if they're going to breeze through qualification this season, much like they did before the World Cup qualifying. Under Conte, I think they're only going to get more consistent, and they're only going to improve.
Obviously, with the help of the referees, which he's had for the last 3 years of his managerial career. Of
course. Although the slate's been wiped clean, you know.
Wiped clean. You're a big fan of him now, obviously.
Oh, I love him.
He's
always
terrific. Ciaran, just looking at the Premier League, is it done already? Chelsea just look really formidable. Manchester City looking a bit, in and out in terms of consistency.
Yeah, but you've got to assume they'll get over that relatively quickly and probably put a good run together. I mean, every team you always assume and expect to have a wee purple patch at some point, so Chelsea will still have that to come. It's just how long it lasts for them. But yeah, I mean, you'd find it hard. I mean, although they've got the depth in squad. I mean, like you said, I didn't really catch much the Chelsea-Arsenal game. I mean, if it's boring,
it was
with all these quality players, they should be. And if you're saying Arsenal are poor, then they should be ripping, doing what they did last year with the 6-1.
Yeah, I'm delighted to see how badly QPR are doing. Nothing Football Club, who don't deserve to be anywhere near, don't even deserve to be discussed. How about that? So fuck them. Brendan Rodgers. What point, as a Liverpool fan, and after everything, the money spent and thing. Chris, I'll ask you, what point do you think the fans will get on his back? Because they've been dreadful this season. They have.
They've it just shows you how massive an influence Suarez was. I don't know. I get the impression that the Liverpool fans have bought into Rodgers in the same way that Everton fans have bought into Martinez. I think because of his approach to the game, he'll get a bit more leeway than certain other managers would.
Yeah.
They've also got the Champions League, which they didn't have last season. They basically could concentrate on the Premiership. A few more results though, and people might start asking questions. It has been an alarming dip in form compared to what they had last season.
Yeah,
we've kind of on here bigged up the signing of Balotelli. You've got to say so far, apart from his goal in the Champions League, he's not really impressed. He just looks a bit lost, do you know?
Dropped from the Italy squad as well.
Yeah, I mean, rightfully so. There's other strikers that are performing at a much higher level, and it's not as if he's there on. It's not as if they don't have the choice. Just they have to pick him on name alone. He's not on form. He's not going to go. You know.
I mean, I look back and I just want to put my arm around Giuseppe Signori and just say, look, if you'd just been born a decade later, you'd have 100 caps.
Signori.
But timing.
It's definitely the case. I mean, see if you look back to the mid-90s.
Capo Canieri 4 times.
He was a bit underappreciated for the
Absolutely.
national team. But then again, look, if you take a look at England, See, you look at England around Euro 96, they had Shearer, Sheringham, Ian Wright, Robbie Fowler. They had all these guys banging